Rimworld, a universe of futuristic technology, interplanetary wars, jetpacks, futuristic guns, and magic? Well, yes, but actually no. At the very least, not in the case of Psycasting. You heard me correctly. Whether it's teleportation or generating a small sun the size of your fist, there's actually no magic involved, at least according to the lore of Rimworld. But how? How is that possible? Don't worry, my dear colonist, we'll get there soon. But first, let's get down to what Psycasting actually is, before explaining how it works according to Rimworld's lore. First introduced as a new game mechanic with the Empire DLC, Psycasting allows the practice of focusing your mind to produce various effects, which can vary from beneficial towards your friends to destructive towards your enemies. But how do you become a Psycaster, you ask? Well, there are multiple paths that can be approached in order to obtain this goal. The first and simplest way is to make use of a silent neuroformer. The neuroformer is a one-time use device created by an architect that, upon being pressed over someone's eyes, it will link directly to the brain, restructuring and reshaping certain parts of it, allowing the user to become a Psycaster. While using a neuroformer is child's play as the device essentially does all the work, obtaining one is the real issue. Most neuroformers are monopolized by the Shrouded Empire, which jealously guards the secrets of Psycasting. Neuroformers are given by the Empire's bestower upon obtaining a certain noble title, but sometimes deserters and fugitives will be in possession of one or will be aware of the location of said neuroformers, although obtaining one this way will most likely turn you into an enemy of the Empire. The second way to obtain Psycasting powers is through an anima tree, a method mainly approached by tribal colonies, as it will require a deep connection with nature and many hours of meditation next to an anima tree. The third and perhaps hardest way, which many researchers still haven't found a way to properly explain, is through a blinding ceremony. As the name implies, blinding ceremonies imply a ritual which will leave the person at its center permanently blind. It is not a common occurrence, but a few cases have been reported through the universe of people developing Psycasting powers after such a ceremony, although it is not guaranteed. So, let's say you have developed Psycasting powers, now what? Well, those powers can be further enhanced through the usage of more Psylink neuroformers or further connections to an anima tree, but developing a Psylink is not enough to become a Psycaster, as Psyfocus must also be accounted for. Psyfocus is a special type of mental structuring, which is necessary to use psychic powers. Psyfocus dissipates over time and must be built by regular meditation. Losing all of Psyfocus makes someone unable to use Psycasts, but has no other consequences. Higher levels of Psyfocus permit higher level powers, but also increase the rate of Psyfocus dissipation. Every time a person makes use of their psychic powers, a certain amount of Psyfocus is consumed, which can be regained through intensive meditation. Keep in mind that the type of meditation available can be unique to each person, as clearing one's mind is a process that becomes more efficient the moment a meditation focus is used. Different people, depending on their personality and other traits, will make use of different meditation. Most tribals will make use of a natural, a meditation type which is effective when performed outdoors with no nearby artificial structures, preferably next to a shrine dedicated to nature, allowing the person to focus their thoughts on the great outdoors, becoming one with the nature. Ascetics are people who renounce the notion of comfort and earthly pleasures. They will be able to focus the most through the use of a minimalistic meditation, essentially meditating in front of an empty wall, allowing them to clear their thoughts and empty their mind, mirroring the aspect of the empty wall. The most common meditation type, though, is the artistic one. By focusing in front of an artistic piece, the thoughts evoked by it can be directed towards meditation purposes, allowing the person to shape their mind and thoughts with ease. People with psychopath inclinations will find peace and will be able to focus with more ease when using a morbid meditation focus, which is usually performed in front of a grave, especially one belonging to a beloved one or a family member, as fond memories or philosophical thoughts of death and life will allow proper focusing and introspection. Commonly encountered within people holding high noble titles is the dignified meditation focus. Performed on a throne located in a wealthy looking room, preferably within a palace, this meditation focus will invoke feelings of power and superiority, which can help the user in gathering mental fortitude and strength. And last but not least, the flame focus. Commonly performed by people with pyromaniacal inclinations, intensely staring into a fire can evoke various feelings of pleasure, destruction, and purification, allowing them to efficiently calm their mind and meditate. Other ways to increase a person's psi focus include making use of a go juice, performing or participating in an ideological ritual with the purpose of recharging their psi focus, or, rarely encountered, taking someone's life while handling a persona weapon with the kill focus trait. But psi focus is not the only thing that must be taken into account when performing psychic feats. Neural heat refers to a type of chaotic psychic energy in the mind, which is built up when using psychic powers and dissipates over the course of a few seconds or minutes. If neural heat is pushed past normal limits, it may cause temporary psychic breakdown and unconsciousness due to psychic shock. One's neural heat limit will increase depending on the psi-link level, with higher levels allowing the user to tolerate more neural heat within their brain. It can also be further dissipated by wearing clothes or armor made out of LTEX, a material that through unknown means conducts and dissipates a person's neural heat from their mind. This material is original to the Shattered Empire. Psychic sensitivity must also be taken into account when considering psycasting. Psychic sensitivity is a unit to measure a person's sensitivity to psychic phenomena, and while people with a high psychic sensitivity will be severely affected by psychic phenomena, such as psychic drones, it will also increase their neural hit limit, essentially making them stronger psycasters. Psycasters will gradually gain access to a wide variety of psycasting powers, some developing naturally and seemingly at random, while other powers can be forced to develop through the usage of a psi trainer, a one-time use device which will inject a dose of mechanites within a person's brain, reconfiguring and training it in the usage of a specific psycast. Different psycasts can have wildly different effects, but the capability of using a psycast will depend on a person's psi-link, as stronger psycasts can only be learned and used effectively when the psi-link requirement is met. For the level 1 psycasts, we have the following. Burden. It will slow the target creature for a short time by suppressing their motor activity within the brain. The Word of Trust is a particularly effective way of implanting a suggestion of trust and amicability towards a prisoner, lowering their resistance and increasing their cooperation. Pain Block will block nerves and pain pathways found within the target's brain for a short time, allowing them to last out longer in combat without passing away from a pain-induced shock. The Stun Psycast will momentarily disrupt motor functions, rendering the target unable to move for a short moment. The Chunk Skip will essentially teleport the 5 closest debris of rock or metal around the caster in a certain area, scattering them around. Widely effective to suddenly produce cover during offensive operations. The Solar Pinhole is an interesting one. It will create a microscopic wormhole towards the core of a nearby star, allowing its heat and light within the environment, illuminating and warming it up. This wormhole is not an effective portal, as it will only create a leak through the space-time dimension. Not enough to pass through, but enough for the warmth and light to leak through weakly. Level 2 psycasts come as they follow. The Blinding Pulse will induce noise in the visual centers of the brain, obscuring vision of everyone near the target point, essentially blinding them for the duration. The Word of Joy will allow a psycaster to implant a psychic suggestion within a person's mind, causing the brain to release an increased amount of dopamine and suppress uncomfortable thoughts, improving their overall mood at the cost of reducing their consciousness for the duration. The Water Skip psycast will cause a large amount of water to skip from a distant body of water or from the underground over a certain area, particularly useful for extinguishing fires. The Neural Hit Dump is the ace in the sleeve of most psycasters. As their neural heat will reach a dangerously high limit, this psycast will allow them to dump their neural heat into someone else's mind, causing them to fall into a comatose state for a day. While particularly useful in combat, it cannot be used on enemy combatants, as the target must be willing to receive the neural heat. Tier 3 psycasts gradually become stronger as they start affecting the human mind and the spatial environment in a much stronger way. The Word of Love will allow the implantation of a psychic suggestion, manipulating the listener's brain into a romantic attraction. It can be used to connect two different people together, induce someone else's love for the caster, or even in particular scenarios, make the caster feel more attracted towards someone else. I will assume for this psycast to be particularly regulated within the Empire, and for it to be used especially during arranged marriages between two noble houses. The Beckoning psycast will allow a brief moment of mind control, forcing the target to approach the caster, particularly useful to draw out enemy combatants or to capture targets. The Chaos Skip is an undelicate and unprecise mean of teleportation. It will distort the spatial dimension around the target, teleporting it to a random nearby position. The Vertigo Pulse is a particularly strong one, and efficient as a non-lethal crowd control technique. It will cause a strong pulse that will interfere with the spatial orientation sense of everyone next to a target point, causing loss of balance and nausea, briefly incapacitating them. Tier 4 Psycasting allows the use of many other powers with far stronger effects. The Smoke Pop Psycast will skip a large amount of dust particles from beneath the soil in order to create a thick cloud, obscuring visibility and reducing effective aim. The Word of Serenity is a calming psychic suggestion, which can forcefully end a person or an animal's mental breakdown, causing them to rapidly fall comatose for a few hours. The Skip Psycast is a much refined version of the Chaos Skip, allowing the user to teleport a target to a desired position. The only limit is that the target cannot be skipped much further than the starting position. The Focus Psycast allows the user to improve a target's senses, effectively boosting their sight, hearing, and moving capacities. Wall Raise is a psychic power that will allow the Psycaster to form a temporary but solid wall of rubble and soil by skipping it from beneath the ground, effective for granting defensive cover or stopping the advance of enemy forces. And now, as we approach the limit of a human's mind in terms of Psycasting capabilities, we reach level 5, granting far stronger powers. The Far Skip Psycast allows the caster, alongside with anyone standing near him, to teleport a distant location. While this can essentially allow someone to instantly travel from one point of a planet to another, there is a caveat involved. The location where the caster wishes to arrive requires the presence of a person mentally willing to allow that to happen at the location where they wish to arrive, essentially functioning as a mental navigation beacon. The Word of Inspiration is another suggestive psycast, which will inspire the target and increase their neural activity in the creative department, flooding their mind with new inspirations and ideas. The Flash Storm Psycast will make use of multiple skip gates in the atmosphere to generate a precisely localized flash storm, striking the area with lightning bolts for a short period of time. The Berserk Psycast is a simple but effective ability, inducing a violent mental breakdown on the target, causing it to indiscriminately attack anyone around, including their own allies. The Invisibility Psycast is rather interesting. Despite its name, it will not make a person invisible, rather it will cause people around them to become unable to perceive their presence. A Psycaster using this power might be in front of you, you will be able to see and hear it without an issue, but your brain will be manipulated into completely ignoring it, rendering them essentially invisible. And now the final tier of Psylink, level 6. These psychic powers will cause a great accumulation of neural heat within a person's mind, but the effects will bend both reality and their mind in ways that humankind will have never thought possible. The Berserk Pulse is a terrifying power. It will force a flight or fight reaction within people in a certain area, causing them to enter a state of rage and physical violence directed towards the most nearby person. While it might not seem all that strong or particularly spectacular, just imagine yourself on the receiving end, going to battle alongside a lifelong friend only to suddenly find unprompted urge to end their life, finding yourself strangling them as life vanishes from their eyes, only for the effect to dissipate later, leaving you with nothing but the realization and regret of your own actions. The Mass Chaos Skip is similar to the Chaos Skip, but rather than randomly teleporting a single target, it will cause the random displacement of everyone within a certain area. The Skip Shield, despite its name, is not an actual shield, but it works just as well as a real one, perhaps even better, as this Psycast will generate a spherical skip gate far too thin to teleport anyone passing through, but large enough to teleport away any bullets or projectiles passing through, providing an exceptional defense. The Manhunter Pulse. By focusing one's mind on feelings of rage and hatred, the caster will direct all of these feelings towards nearby animal life, driving them into a rabid-like state and causing them to become highly aggressive towards any human encountered. This Psycast is widely known for destroying entire platoons with minimal effort. And finally, what is perhaps one of the most chaotic and destructive Psycasts known to man, the Neuroquake. The Neuroquake is a particularly strong Psycast, which, in order to be used, will require the caster to intensively meditate for 12 uninterrupted seconds, after which they will fall into a comatose state for 5 days. While channeling the Neuroquake and meditating, the caster will find a discontinuity in the psychic field and will proceed to unfold it, releasing a massive amount of psychic energy, driving everyone located in the area outside of the caster's protective inner circle to be driven violently insane, being essentially a much stronger version of the Berserk Pulse. Even with the most experienced Psycaster, the Neuroquake is rarely used, and is most of the time kept as a last resource, as the unfolding of the psychic field will work as an indiscriminate attack, inflicting great pain on everyone and everything for many kilometers around the caster. Now, as I finally finished explaining what Psycasting is, I can proceed to tell you exactly how it works. At the beginning of this, I mentioned that it is in no way just simple magic, and curiously enough, Psycasting is a poorly understood and somewhat explained phenomena within the universe. While indeed it doesn't make sense for humans to be capable of simply altering the laws of physics or affecting people's thoughts and consciousness using only their mind, the explanation is rather simple. The caster, despite its name, is not the point of origin of a psycast. There is only one force strong enough to seemingly manipulate reality at will, bend the laws of physics, and strongly affecting people's minds to force certain thoughts or actions onto them. The architects. Every psycasting is in fact the work of an architect. Becoming a psycaster is the process to connecting one's mind to a seemingly galactic-wide psychic field, allowing the psycaster to induce an architect superintelligence located somewhere far away in the universe to influence reality in a certain way. This by no way means that becoming a psycaster is the equivalent of controlling an architect. Rather, if I were to explain it, the psycaster is essentially a proxy between an architect's powers and the area the psycaster is located in. The reason why psycasters can choose what psycast to use and how is also related to architects. There are many architects across the universe, each with its own personality, thoughts and desires, and this variety is exactly what allows psycasters to choose what to do and how. Let me explain. Let's say that a psycaster desires to extinguish the flames that are currently devouring his home. By concentrating on the water skip psycast, the caster will essentially connect to a benevolent architect which will make use of the psycaster as a proxy to produce the water skip effect out of its own benevolence and love, while the usage of a berserk pulse will allow the psycaster to simply allow a malevolent architect that wishes for nothing but the destruction of the human race out of pure hatred to affect everyone within that area. Again, simply acting as a proxy. Essentially, it all boils down to the psycaster aligning its interests with one of the many architects existing across the galaxy. Of course, becoming a proxy for a godlike entity to manifest its powers is nothing but a simple task, especially for one's mind, as that would essentially involve a direct mental connection with a godlike entity, which even for a brief second can be devastating, this being the reason why mental preparation under the form of meditation must be applied. This explanation covers many aspects of psycasting. For one, the fact that psyling neuroformers are created by architects as a way to allow people to psychically connect with them on a certain level. The second aspect that psycasting covers is something that I mentioned in a previous video and I want to address now. In my video covering the lore of the Shattered Empire, I attempted to offer my personal opinion on why the Empire's ideology worships architects. The explanation I offered was rather lackluster, revolving around the argument of they do because it's what makes most sense. And while that explanation is not entirely incorrect, it's definitely incomplete. The reason why the Empire worships the architects is because it's what makes the most sense, as the architects are the source of their psychic powers, in particular one specific architect, as we have already established that the Empire is led by a monotheistic faith. Now, whether this architect is the planet Sophia Munda itself or one that they came into contact with at some point in time is entirely up for debate. I would also like to highlight Pacas64's comment on my last video for raising a good point about the Empire likely collaborating or being in a certain of amicable contact with an architect due to the high amount of psyling neuroformers they are in possession of, along with the secret of the creation of the Altex material. But this now brings us back to another question. How are the animatries involved in this? They are fully capable of bestowing a psylink onto someone without any type of technology. How is that possible? To that, I offered two theories. The first is my personal theory, and the second is one that I consider really good, coming from one of my subscribers. My first personal theory is that, since psylinking involves connecting one's mind to a psychic field, this process becomes possible due to the extensive amount of meditation that one has to partake with around the animatry, creating a strong bond not just with nature, but with the universe itself. This bond ultimately allowing a person to connect with the animatry, the gateway of the universe towards two different planes of existence, the physical and the psychical one. The second theory, which I read in my comment section, belongs to Kashi6145. According to Kashi, the reason why the animatry can allow the formation of psylinks is due to its roots being connected to an archonexus. This theory is further supported by the high presence of animatries around the Archonexus itself, with the Archonexus essentially being a dormant architect extending its powers unconsciously towards animatries, which will essentially work as a proxy between a person and the Archonexus itself. Now, one aspect that I feel it's worth mentioning in this video, as it's closely related to the Rimworld lore, is its biggest inconsistency, and that's the faster than light inconsistency. As I mentioned in the first video of this Rimworld lore series, a faster than light spaceship engine was never developed, not even by architects, and while the Johnson-Tanaka drive allows for spaceships to rapidly travel from one planet to another, space travel still takes a considerable amount of time, to the point where people will require to undergo cryptosleep in order to avoid dying of old age by the time they will reach their destinations. The Psycasting directly contradicts this, as architects are not only capable of manifesting their reality-bending powers while being located presumably many light years away, but the skipping powers I have mentioned previously also allow for people or things to be seemingly instantly teleported from one place to another. There is a whole analysis on the wiki if you are interested. I will also be leaving a screenshot of it on the video, so you can pause and read on all the details if you want. Kudos to the Rimworld wiki for this amazing analysis. In some way, I can find this inconsistency excusable, as it could be motivated or explained by the fact that seemingly transporting a number of people from one point of the planet to the other in an instant, or opening a small disruption in space-time to allow the light and warmth of a star to leak onto an environment through the solar pinhole Psycast, will be far more feasible than instantaneously transporting at a faster than light speed an entire spaceship complete with occupants, infrastructure, and belongings, especially from one solar system to the other. In some way, this canonically confirms that the psychic field through which architects manifest their powers through psycasting belongs to a plane of existence where distance is irrelevant. With this, I am now done covering the lore and the theories of psycasting. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel to support me in the creation of more similar content. Make sure to leave your feedback, theories and comments down below, as I always try to make time in between each video production to read and scroll through them. I will see you in my next video, and I wish you a good night.